In the meantime, I want to talk about another big trial making headlines that we have been following here at the Law and Crime Network. That is the Shayna Huber's trial out of Kentucky. Shayna Huber's taking the stand yesterday, her testimony continuing today. A lot of people were surprised that she took the stand to testify because, remember, this is a retrial. She was already convicted of murdering her boyfriend, but that conviction was thrown out when it became apparent that one of the jurors actually was a convicted felon. So now here her retrial is happening. She did not testify the first time around, but she did testify this time. I want to replay some of her testimony, and then I want to get Ashley's opinion on how effective she thinks it was. So let's take a listen.
Did you all have any private conversations at that time?
Yes, sir.
And did you all go anywhere else together?
Yes. Ryan met me at the restaurant bar that I was having the party at is called Tin Roof. It was fairly new back then. This is a long time ago. He wanted me to leave Tin Roof with him and go to a different location, like 2 doors down. And as we were leaving the bar, I remember he grabbed onto my wrist really with a strong grip and was walking ahead of me down the street towards, I believe it was called Two Keys Tavern at the time. And I remember thinking that he had a strong personality and was, I feared him. I felt like I needed to do what he was telling me to do. Once we got there, we were sitting in a booth at this tavern, and I recall Ryan, I had on a dress, and I recall Ryan reaching at my dress and grabbing onto one of my thighs and making a comment about my thigh that felt inappropriate or vulgar for how little I knew him in person. And
how did you react to that?
I got up and went to the bathroom, and my phone had died, and I asked another man if I could use his phone, and I called a cab, and I left the location. I left the facility.
Well, there you have it. Shayna Huber's on the stand. Just a quick snippet of her testimony from yesterday. She was back on the stand again today, and just as soon as we get the footage from her courtroom testimony today, we will bring that to you. Remember, the judge in Kentucky has a lot of rules about what we can show and when. But talking about that testimony yesterday, she's talking about how she was frightened of Ryan Poston from the moment she met him, meeting him at a bar, him acting rather aggressively towards her. Ashley, do you think it's necessary for her to testify about the mindset she claims she had in terms of fearing for her own safety, in terms of Ryan Poston being abusive?
Well, given her defense is that she was a victim of abuse and that's why she committed this crime in self-defense, then yes, I think it's absolutely imperative. I'm surprised she was deciding to testify. I think her testimony sounds better than I expected, quite frankly. Watching her on some other media clips, I would not have expected her to be quite so sympathetic and a little bit pitiful and actually a little credible to listen to her. I don't think that means she's not going to be convicted, but that's what I thought of her testimony.
I mean, obviously her credibility is at the center of this, right? And we've heard from other witnesses who say that she's, whether admitted to this in jail, changed her story a number of times. There's also the issue, after she was arrested, she was seen, laughing in the interrogation room, giggling a little bit. She explained that by saying, when I'm nervous, I tend to get like a nervous laugh. And that was, in response to her attorney's questioning. So was it important for them to address that, for her to come out and say, oh yeah, I get a nervous laugh when I'm really scared?
I think it's the best they can do. They've got to, it is what it is, and so they have to do everything they can to mount a good defense. And by putting her up to explain away in her mind why she's done those things and had really damning actions, I think can only help the defense. It may not be enough, but I think it helps the defense.
How important is Shayna Huber's childhood? I mean, in all murder cases, it always comes up, right? The abuse, the sexual abuse that the defendant allegedly suffered as a child. In this case, Shayna Huber's testifying that she was molested by her own father, by a stranger at one point, that she was sexually assaulted. What role does that information play?
Well, all I could say is that I've worked with a lot of victims of different types of childhood trauma, and these victims will always tell me it's no excuse, that they get offended that someone's going to say, well, I committed murder or committed this atrocious crime because I was abused as a child. And so I think other victims would say it doesn't excuse it.
All right, Ashley, stand by. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back. We'll be back live in Texas for the Roy Oliver trial. Stay with us.